wonderful story told of a young girl who came home from school one day excited about the story that she heard at school that day. She heard the story of Cinderella. Now, most of us, when we hear a fairy tale, are familiar with the characters and the details and things that happen, but this particular girl had never heard this story before. She came home excited to tell her mom about what was going on. Her mom was waiting for her in the kitchen, and the girl came in, started shouting out the details about this wonderful story of a young girl who was mistreated by her family, but then got a chance to go to a ball and inside of a pumpkin carriage and mice that turned into horses and meeting the love of her life, running back home and then becoming approached by this love that she had a chance to dance with, to try on that glass slipper, and the joy and the excitement of, after knowing that slipper fit, that her beloved invited her to live a life happily ever after. As she got to the climax of her story, the girl said to her mom, "Guess what happened? Guess what happened?" And the mom just couldn't wait. And she said, "I bet that they lived happily ever after." The little girl was a bit confused, and then looked at her mom and said, "No, they got married." My friends, today I welcome you to the next installment of Series 66, where we talk about the book, the Song of Solomon, sometimes known as the Song of Songs. This is an appropriate story or book to deal with today as a prelude to Valentine's Day that comes up on Sunday. Now, at Valentine's Day, we have a pressure, both men and women, to woo and win the hearts of the one we love, whether we're married or dating or just seeking love from someone. Valentine's Day is a way for us to dedicate to love. And there are good and there are bad things about the commercialization and the things that come along with Valentine's Day. But little do we know, or many people do not know, that this kind of love and idea that is associated with Valentine's Day is mentioned in Scripture through this book, the Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon is also known as the Song of Songs. It is a reference or an idea that the greatest of all. The Songs actually is a group of poems, 8 chapters long, expressing love in a real way. Now, in these psalms, in these poems that are mentioned, they are alternating voices between men and women, a man and a woman talking about their love for their beloved. Now, in this particular book, Solomon doesn't seem to be the one speaking from the male's voice, the male perspective. Some believe that he did write these words, but it is not his love that he's expressing, but he's expressing a larger truth about love between man and woman, husband and wife, or the beloved, the ones who are betrothed to one another. And so, to say it's the Song of Solomon, it is more about being in the wisdom of Solomon, or the tradition of what he has written in previous books, like Ecclesiastes and the like. And so, in these 8 chapters, there's alternating voices between a man and a woman. And in these voices, they express their desire for one another. Their desire to love and to be loved. Their physical attraction for one another. And their joy in being together. But in many times, they're separated. Or they talk about being separated and the heartache that it faces. Of course, we can relate to this, being separated from the ones we love. But sometimes that separation is not just physical. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's relational. And we need to acknowledge and read into those passages here in the Book of Solomon as a way of expressing what we think and desire. But also in this particular book, there is descriptions of physical attraction. Now, of course, this is part of the way we are created. To be attracted to the opposite sex, to be attracted to the one we love. This is to be celebrated. This is to be honored in a way that is respectful and appropriate. The description, however, of this physical attraction is strange to us. I put a video link in the description of this devotion today by a song by Mark Lowry, which is a parody of an Amy Grant song called Baby Baby. And in Mark Lowry's version, he illustrates this idea of the physical attraction described in the Song of Solomon. And his song is entitled Baby, Why Not Me? And he talks about how he would, if Solomon could woo people with, or woo women with these words, why can't he? So I invite you to take a listen to it if you want to know more about what's going on here in the Book of Solomon. It's a fun take on what is happening here in the Book of Solomon. And so, but really this book is talking about the power of love. Love can be a life-giving way if it is protected and projected properly. But love can also be damaging and destructive if it is abused and used inappropriately. The Song of Solomon illustrates how you and I need and desire to be known, but also to know in an intimate way. This has been placed inside of us, and throughout our lives, we sense and we feel a need to be known and to know. This is powerful and important, and when it's working right, it is one of the most beautiful things to see a love that flourishes, a love that protects, a love that unites, a love that celebrates all that God is and all that God does. Our relationships are often tainted by selfishness, however, but the Song of Solomon is meant to point us to the true nature of love that transcends our brokenness and brings us together. There are two repeating phrases here in the Book of Solomon that I think are important to reflect upon and to think about today. The first appears in chapter 2, verse 16, but again, it's repeated throughout the book. The verse is, "My beloved is mine, and I am his." This is an expression of unity, of solidarity, of oneness. Jesus refers to this in his gospel when he is asked about divorce. And he says that it is important for man and woman to leave their families and be united as one in both flesh and in spirit. Solomon begins this idea that my beloved is mine, and he is mine, and I am his, expressing a commitment to one another. But also, after this phrase is used throughout the Book of Solomon, it also talks about there being a separation, almost as if this couple unites together, agrees to be one, but then separates, maybe physically, possibly emotionally. This idea that we desire this unity, this intimacy, but too often we separate it. The second repeated line or verse is found in chapter 3, verse 5, and it says this: "Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or waken love until it so desires." This is a reminder that there's a right time for everything. And in our world today, we have sexualized everything. That it seems as if love is just a free commodity that can be given away. Sexual love can be given away wherever and whenever the desire hits. But Solomon wants us to be reminded of the protection and the beauty of this particular love. Do not awaken its desire until it is time. There's a moment and a place for this love to be expressed. And the Bible teaches, and we believe, that it is between a husband and wife that it is the most important. Now, there's a lot more to unpack and think about this, but as we approach Valentine's Day, it is my hope and desire that you approach the Song of Solomon as a way to understand and focus on a love that is beautiful, designed by God to be celebrated and expressed between man and wife. If you want to know more or hear a more beautiful description of this particular book, I've left another description in this, to a link in the description of this video for another video by a group called The Spoken Gospel, where they unpack this book in a beautiful way. And I invite you to look at it if you have a time. And I also invite you to get into this book, the Song of Solomon, and read a little bit about what God desires for love in human expression. I hope this has helped you today, and I wish God's deepest blessings upon you as you approach Valentine's Day and celebrate love. God bless you.